SSH keys, you'll see your SSH key has the username Mininet at the end. You need to generate the key as whatever the user ID is that you're going to use on Daylight. So if you're using Windows, stop using Windows. You can go into Fedora and create another user if you'd like, do add user or whatever and log in as the user, and then run all the stuff we did before, and it'll work okay. It still worked? Okay, well. All right, well, his key's screwed up. We just looked at his key. The whole thing at the end is garbled, and it has Mininet as part of the key. I don't know. Oh, well, maybe that's what you did. Yeah. Right. Because then you're okay, right? Yeah, he generated the new key in the VM, and it's not right. So your mileage may vary. So do you have all your stuff set up? You have all your stuff set up?
Yeah, I think so. I got internet, I got
Cool.
What time should it start? It's already now, no? 50? What's the schedule? Some people are arriving now. Perfect. So it's 2 minutes, 1 minute more. I think it's time to get started. So first, welcome everybody. I'm really amazed to see so many people after this long session of tutorial. So thank you first. Second, my name is Luis. I work for Ericsson, and I started working in OpenDaylight like 5 months ago, and then I've been mostly doing integration and tests together with some people that are sitting here as well. This presentation is not really something, let's say, for developers. It's useful for developers, but I'm targeting more this kind of audience that is more end users and also test people and verification people. So we are not going to build anything here. We are not going to deal with Maven or Eclipse or that kind of things. We are just going to basically fetch whatever we need, take whatever we need in the OpenDaylight just to run the controller and be able to verify it and also integrate it if you have an OpenFlow network. So that's the intention. And for that, I have put together this content. The first thing is the lab setup, which is the USB that we just shared from the beginning. So if you don't have it, please ask, and then I will pass that. The second thing we're going to do is download and run the controller, as easy as that. So you don't need to do basically much. I will show you how to do it, very easy. The third thing, we're going to explore a little bit the graphical interface, which is a very cool tool, but has some limitations. So I will talk about those limitations. Start your own network with Mininet. So Mininet is your best friend for OpenDaylight because you can easily, we'll see that, you can easily simulate an OpenFlow network, including switches and hosts. And it's very, very, very useful tool. Then we're going to see some sample applications that are included in the OpenDaylight. And this is important because when you are doing integration, you want to know sometimes what's going on, why this behavior instead of that one. So it's good that you get to know a little bit these applications. Then we have the APIs and tools. I will talk a little bit. Tools that we use for also integration. And finally, a little bit troubleshooting. It's also important if you are dealing with a controller, if something doesn't work the way you expect, where should I look at? This is also informal, so you can interrupt me anytime, ask any question, whatever. So this is the lab setup. Here I will comment a couple of things. Myself and also the team that works with me, we have been testing the controller, and some of these requirements could look a little bit high, like 4 CPUs. But I can guarantee you, you need that at least if you are dealing with the new OpenFlow plugin. I mean, if you are dealing with the old plugin that we will talk a little bit later, it's okay with 2 CPUs probably. But we have seen in the lab that if you want to run the new OpenFlow plugin, you probably need, at this point, you need to have this capacity. The same with the RAM. I would recommend also to use the 4 GB. I think the bare minimum could be 3 probably. But just make it 4 to make sure you don't run into issues. Another thing I want to say here is that if you are running the controller and for some reason you see instabilities, topology doesn't count, you miss some connector, most likely more than a bug, probably you are missing either memory or processing CPU. So try that first before raising a bug or. Okay. So these are the things. The first thing we're going to cover is very easy, is how to download the OpenDaylight release. And for that, and since today, we have a download link that you can see there, the OpenDaylight software. And here you can find, I summarize here the things that you can find on this page. So basically, you have edition zip files. These editions are like Java artifacts. The only thing you need to run these files, this can run on any OS. The only thing you need to install is the Java environment 1.7. Okay, this is the only requirement in order to run these files. There is a second requirement, I don't know why it's not here, that once you set up your Java environment, you need to set up the Java home variable. Otherwise, you get some issues running the controller. But it will tell you, when you run the controller and then there is the Java home is missing, they will tell you, hey, I cannot start the controller, I missed this variable. So no problem. You will know. The next thing we have is RPM files. This is for Fedora-based Linux. So that is also available, and they are available for the 3 different editions that we have. I see also that we have some Docker containers. So for those that they use Docker or they want to play with this option, it's also available. Then we have also VMs. We have a few VMs available. This VM we're going to use in this summit is not available yet, but it will be very soon. And then we have extra downloads, because as you know, we have a few projects within OpenDaylight that is not only controller. They are not only developing some application or plugging the controller, but they are developing also around the controller. For those applications that they don't live in the controller but outside, we have also extra downloads, RPMs and all sort of installables. Okay, the two links that I want to point out, one is the software, so you can download all the software, and the second is installation guides. We have installation guides for everything. So I just gonna go quickly so you can see what I'm talking about. But basically, this is all we have now for downloads. This is the zip file that this is probably the most common, easy way to install the controller. Just to take the zip file, I will do that after, and you can try also on your setup. It's just to download the zip file, unzip the file, and then look for the run. You run the controller, and that's it. And the only thing you need is the Java that I mentioned before. Then you have the RPM as well. If you have Fedora, it's also very straightforward. And then you have these virtual machines. For this virtual machine, I can comment this one. Actually, Fedora one, what it has is just it's like a Fedora already with the controller installed. Okay, so it's ready to use with the controller software on it. This one, we were preparing this in integration. This one has a lot of tools. So this one you want to download has a controller, but it has also a bunch of things like Mininet, like the OBS, the latest OBS 2.0. It has CPQD emulation. It has the robot framework that you use in integration to do testing. So it has a lot of things here, this one. And you can always get more information about anything that you see here by just pressing there and then see, okay, what is the content here? But this was all these things, right? Okay. The next thing is all the information is there as well, how to install, so I will not spend time on that. And this is something that you should know. Everything that is in the release page is made for the release. So there you can find the release artifact, the release RPMs, everything that has to do with the release that happened today. But if in a week or a month you need to really try with the latest, that not necessarily the most stable, but with the latest feature or with the, I don't know, less bugs for some things, probably I recommend to download from Jenkins. So we have this Jenkins, together with Robot Framework in OpenDaylight that is continuously testing all the builds and building the editions that was the zip artifact that you saw before. So the same artifact, you can get the latest version just built from the same day. And this is really, really helpful. I can tell if you are testing. OK, so now what we're going to do is just to start the controller, very easy thing. Actually, before that, let me see that. Yeah, I think there was me somehow. Yeah. So actually, before I start the controller, I'm going to explain a little bit the controller options, which is in this PowerPoint. So normally the controller run, to start the controller, there will be always either a run sh or a run.bat. If you have an RPM, I think it's a different, you need to edit a file and then you run your option there. But basically, what you need to know from the run option is that, first of all, you use the help. I recommend this one first. You see all the options to run your controller. The second thing is you just run your controller like that. Just type in run sh. Then you're going to get your console, the OSGI console or the controller console directly on your terminal. But sometimes you don't want to do that. So in that case, you can just start controller process and then send the console to another port. So you can telnet this port later and then get access to the console. Doing that way, you can always stop it, and then you can also see the status. If you just start the controller by the normal command, to stop it, you just need to type a seed. You can try that later in the lab, and then you will see the controller. There is no stop, start, or status function. But if you start the controller using the start, then you are able to stop it and also see the status. This is a very important option, the OpenFlow 1.3. The controller, by default, in this release, is coming with the OpenFlow 1.0 plugin, which is the original plugin in this project. Because the OpenFlow 1.3 plugin was an addition not in the last minute, but it was kind of a little bit late in the development. It's something that we are including that, and I think it's very interesting, but it's an option that you need to enable using this OpenFlow 1.3 switch. And it's good to know, people, that this is like this is in a beta or experimental state. So don't expect the new OpenFlow 3 plugin behave the same stable and everything the same as the old OpenFlow plugin. But we're working on that, actually. We are very working, at least in the test team in OpenDaylight, we're working very close with the OpenFlow plugin developers to get this more stable, at least more like the old one. The last switch that you will be interested in when you are running your controller. This switch is only for virtualization edition. It doesn't exist. Yeah. Actually, all the versions you can enable the OpenFlow 1.3, if that is the question. Yeah, it's available in all the versions, the OpenFlow 1.3. Yeah. The only thing I can say is that we, in the test team, we are currently verifying, and we have a continuous system test going on, only for the base edition. So that's the one that has been more tested with the new OpenFlow plugin. But the truth is that the other edition, they have also that possibility. Yeah. The only thing is that if you are interested in a virtualization, for instance, let's say one of the virtualization, VTN or VSDV, OpenDAV Affinity, you better check first whether or not they support the new OpenFlow plugin. I can tell you already, because I'm working on this test. The only one that really supports the new OpenFlow 1.3 plugin is OBSDB. So OBSDB, they were working in the last weeks for the new OpenFlow 1.3 plugin work in their project. But VTN, OpenDAV, and Affinity, I don't think they're supported yet with the new OpenFlow plugin. And the last option, the virtualization. When you are running the virtualization edition, you need to choose. Actually, if you try to run directly, it will tell you, no, I cannot run directly. You need to choose one of these options. And the option, as you see there, is VTN, OBSDB, OpenDAV, or Affinity. These are the 4 different virtualizations that we have now. Okay? Yeah, and then this is very basic. When you start your controller, the first thing you want to check is to verify that it's up and running, is to open the graphical interface. And this is I just put the local because supposing you have a browser locally, otherwise you just type the IP of the controller there, and then it's the port 8080. What are the features of the GUI now that we are talking about the GUI? The feature are what I more or less the main feature, I would say. Probably there are some other things, but this is the main features. This is the switch inventory, so you can see your switches in the graphical interface. You can see your topology. These two, they work either for OpenFlow 1.0 and OpenFlow 1.3. There is no issues. However, the flow programming and the flow statistic is only for OpenFlow 1.0. So it's important to know. You can also have access to the OSGI bundle management. This is useful. I mean, if you are dealing with the controller, for some reason you don't want to, you need to disable some application that is interfering with your testing, or because I will explain later what are these applications that could be interfering. You can disable them by using the OSGI management console. So the OSGI, as Madhu and also Tom explained, how this OpenDaylight is done is made of bundles. This bundle, they run independently, and you can actually start, stop, restart any of these bundles without any issue. Then you have a new user management function that you can define user with different authorization levels. And finally, you can say configuration, so the next time you start the controller, you see your flows or whatever is there. OK. So now it's time for lab. A little bit of lab. So these are the very basic steps you can see here and you can follow. I mean, if the network is very slow, but it's not much, I would recommend to try. If you think it's very slow, it's no problem because I already download the controller in the VM just in case. But basically, what you need to have your controller is just to create a folder for it. Then you just go to the folder, and then you use, it's a little bit long, actually, I realize now. But another thing you can do is also go to the page that I said before for the software, and you can directly download the zip file from the download page. And the zip file, when you get the zip file there, you just need to unzip. And after that, you go to a folder called OpenDaylight, and then you run. It's just this. Nothing else. And then you can use the option that I mentioned before. If you want to enable OpenFlow 1.3 or you are talking about virtualization, we can enable something as well. If you have issues downloading or you're going to go straight to run your controller, the only thing you need to do is to go into the VM, and then under the home folder, you can find the controller base, controller virtualization, and controller service provider. So just go there, because this is what I did. Just go there and then just see the OpenDaylight, and then you can run the controller directly. So I will, and then after that, what you're gonna check a little bit is what I mentioned before. If you don't run any option, you're gonna get your console directly in the terminal, and you can actually, when you see, after seeing some messages that you feel that is already up, then you can try to open the graphical interface. So I leave some time now if people want to. I will also try here so you can follow. So basically what I'm saying is that, yeah, I can actually, because I have a good internet connection here, cable, I can show you how easy it is. So I just need to create a folder. I just go to the folder, and then I have already, hopefully in the history, yeah, here I have what I need to download. Doesn't take much. I think it's exactly around 60, 80 megabyte, the artifact. So exactly what it's doing, I was explaining after later, but I can tell you already. What it's doing is switching off and on and off some bundles within the OSGI framework. So yeah, some virtualization, they have some issues with the sample application that I will explain later. And also, it looks like if some application, they are sharing the Neutron interface that we have for OpenStack, so they cannot basically work together for OpenStack. So that's another reason we have to, at least in this release, we have to split or at least make differentiation between the different virtualization. My understanding is that for next releases, we're going to hopefully work more together and try to get, we don't need to shut down any bundle, and everything can work like that. Well, it's up to the user, right? We have OpenDAV, which is pretty much you're going to deal with the IBM OpenDAV. If we have the VTM, you're going to deal with any kind of, let's say, OpenFlow switch. And then we have OBSDB, which is very focused on the OBS switches. You cannot use that. Probably you have an OBS switch. And that are the kind of different that you may find. Yeah. So by the time we are talking, I just download. So I just need to unzip. And it's a distribution.zip file that I get here. And then what I get is a folder. You can see here it's called OpenDaylight. So I just go to OpenDaylight. And then there are different files here. One is the one in this case, because it's Linux, you want to do the run sh. If it is Windows, it's run.bat. So just like that. And as I said, this is going to start popping messages in my console. And I will advance that this is actually you're going to use to debug. So you want to debug an issue or see why something is not working. The first place you're going to see is you're going to look is the console. And the console, it has, as it is now, there is some kind login level, let's say, for the different apps and the different bundles. But you can always play with that. You can shut down some of the logs, like Madhu did before. But you can enable some other bundles. You can increase the level of logging for the bundles if you're interested to debug some more bundle more in particular. I will explain a little bit later more in detail that. We need to wait a little bit. So this is another thing. So when you are running the controller, depending very much how your machine is, the hardware that you are running, right? If you have a good processor, good memory, 1 minute should be enough to get everything up. If it is so-so, maybe 2 minutes. Between 1 minute and 2 minutes, you need to wait until everything comes up and you can start doing something. But as I say, that the best way to verify that my controller is running, There are two ways, actually. I can show you one here that is not, I didn't include in the presentation. So you can always do SS. This is actually a very useful command. And then you see all your bundles. So whenever you see that you have all your bundles active, sorry, it's still not. In the end, they should be all active. So we are still waiting. I saw one resolve there. So this is just, if you are in the terminal, you can try, you have a VM, everybody here. If you just do the run SH, what you're gonna start is an OSGI console to control your OSGI framework. So this is actually what you get just by running. Or exactly, you do that start, then it's just run a process, and then in order to access the console, you need to do a telnet. Telnet to the port that I said before. Yeah. Right? Yeah, that one doesn't want to active, but probably is not so important, hopefully. So the next thing you're going to do for sure is to open your graphical interface to make sure that everything is as should be. So let me see, because now with this resolution, there you go. You can open Chrome that you have there. And the only thing you need to go, what I say, because the controller is running in this VM, you just need to go loop back and then 8080. You just log in with admin. This is the standard password. And there you go. Now this is the graphical interface for the OpenDaylight. And that's the first lab. Is everybody up to get the graphical interface, or anybody still working on this? Raise hand. It's okay. Nice. So the second thing we're going to do, actually before doing that, I have some small explanation of Mininet. I said before, Mininet is definitely the very convenient tool actually to test your controller. Because first, it's free, it's open source. Second, it's very self-contained, so you can emulate or simulate a full network within a VM. So you don't really need to have real switches or many VMs to simulate a network. And third, you can create different topologies that are, some of them, they are already predefined, or you can even configure your own thing. I mean, there are files that you can set up your own topology. You want to set up your own topology. One thing important here to note is that Mininet by default start OBS OpenFlow 1.0. So if you want to use the new OpenFlow plugin and test it with Mininet, you need to enable this kind of feature or protocol in the OBS. So how to do that? There are two ways currently we are using in OpenDaylight. One of the things you can do is to patch Mininet. So there is instruction in the wiki is how to patch the Mininet. So when you start Mininet, you start in OpenFlow 1.3. I can show you later. And the second is, we have this OBSDB plugin working very well in OpenDaylight. And you can, OBSDB, actually, you can program your OBS as whatever you want. And that's why you can use this plugin also to tell the OBS or the Mininet OBS to start in OpenFlow 1.3 mode. This is very important as well, controller sample application, because there are a few things that if you start dealing with the controller and you don't know, you can get some surprises. So these three applications that are here are working by default in the controller. So they are enabled when you start the controller, basically. So what are these three applications doing? The first one is called the RP handler. And what it's doing is to forward RP messages between hosts. So that means that if you connect something to, let's say you have a network of switches and then you connect a host, and this host starts to send RPs, because this in IPv4, this is a very standard way to start a communication. This RPs is going to be automatically forwarded by this application in the controller, right? Because when there is some unknown packet in the OpenFlow suite, it's going to be sent to the controller. And in this case, the RP application is going to forward this to the rest of the hosts that are in the network. Then you're going to get RP answers, and these are also forward back to the host. So all that is the RP handling is actually happening automatically in the OpenDaylight. The second application is called Host Tracker. And the Host Tracker, what it's going to do is to do things. You can configure a static host. Define a host is, OK, yeah, this is the host I have with this MAC and IP address, and this is connected to this port. And you can also learn hosts dynamically. And this is what is happening with the RP. Every time you deal with RPs, you are learning that there's a host behind, and that you update your host tracker. And so all this will show up in the host tracker. And the third one, and most important one, that's the simple forwarding. So actually, once you get your host in your host tracker, the simple forwarding application is going to push flows down for this particular host to talk each other. And I think it's a very cool feature. And when you start the controller, like, hey, I can start the controller, and after that, I can ping host, like I'm pushing flows automatically. But it could be the some application that you are willing to test, or even the virtualization edition that we have now, they have issues with that because they don't want to have this automatic flow pushing or these kind of things. So then that's what my note here is sample applications are disabled in BTN and Affinity Virtualization Edition because this cannot work very well with this kind of automation. But also the same for you. If you are testing pushing flows or doing something in your lab environment, if you want to really have control over your flows, nothing happens unless you push the flow. Really, you need to disable at least the simple forwarding. And the other two, you can do as well if you wish. But the simple forwarding is something that you may definitely you want to disable. Any question? Then go back to the lab. So what we're going to do now is to start Mininet, basically. See how this network pop up in our graphical interface. And then we're going to try the ping function to verify this simple application together with the RP and the host tracker. So all these sample applications can be, they are put together actually when you do a ping from one host to another to be able to ping actually. And then we're going to check installed flows. I will explain a little bit these flows. Finally, there is some sample script you can find in tutorial script. I mean, if you find difficult to type this command, there is already some scripts there to start the topology and everything in this tutorial script. But I will do it here. You can follow as well. So I open a second cell here. Hopefully, I have it here somewhere. There you go. Yeah, you can use your loopback address or your interface address. It doesn't matter. As long as it is in the same machine, it should work. And this command, what it's going to do is actually it's going to create a topology called level 3. So it's going to be 3 switches connected. And then it's going to create a few hosts as well automatically. And then it's going to connect remotely to the controller to this port. See, you don't specify the port. It's going to be anyway CC33. This is the standard port for Mininet use for setting up the switches. So let's go ahead. So this is creating my network. And now the next thing I will do is to go back to the, as I said, go back to my graphical interface. Then I refresh. And voila. So this is my topology. 3 switches where, yeah, it's normally like this. You have a number 1, and then you have 2 and 3, like in a tree, very basic tree. Okay, and you can see I can use this also to explore a little bit the graphical interface. So on the left side, you have your switches, your inventory, the number of ports, and then on the right side, you can see your topology. Also, things that you can see here is something called flows. So this is actually used to program manually your flows in OpenFlow 1.0. And then you have something called Troubleshoot that is very much used to verify that your flows are in the switch, actually. Because the flow, what is going to happen is going to connect directly to your flow programmer application that is in the controller. It's going to configure a flow there. But that doesn't mean necessarily that the flow is down to the switch. So whenever you push or configure a flow here manually, add a flow entry, or remove, doesn't matter. You need to make sure in the troubleshooting that actually this gets deletes or add. And the way troubleshooting is called troubleshooting, I don't know why, but the only thing it's doing is actually reading the statistics. So it's going to the switches and getting the statistics from there. So if you get flows in the switches, you will get that here when it said statistics. We will see that after the next example. Other thing you might be interested, these are sample applications as well, static route and subnet configuration. You can play with that as well, but they are not so, probably the most interesting are the three that I showed you before. You can find information about the static route and the subnet gateway configuration. But the most interesting is the RP handler, the host tracker, and the simple forwarding. And then on the right side, just to mention that we had the things I told you. We have the user. You can manage your user. The cluster, in case that you have a cluster configuration, a cluster is made of two controllers that they are synchronized. They have the same database. And if you have a cluster configuration, then you can see here what is the status of the cluster, what is the master, and that kind of things. The OSGI console is what I said before. So you have access to all your processes and so on. And then you can say configuration. Just a quick look to this one, because I think that you might be interested. So this is the one that I said you can see all your bundles. You can start them, stop them, whatever you want to do is here. So you can see all your processes here and so on. And you have the different options. You can stop, you can restart, you can update. I never try update, though. I don't know what is doing this update thing. Anyway, so let's go to the next. Any questions so far? So the next thing is we're going to ping. And this is to prove that this sample application that I was talking before, they are actually working. So for that, you go Mininet. When you start Mininet, it's going to give you a shell, a Mininet shell. And then this is what you type the Mininet commands. So now what you want to do here in the Mininet shell is h1 ping h4. And it's working. You say, how? So what it's actually doing is that you will see clearly what's going on if you go to your graphical interface back again. It was here. No, a little bit on the... Here you go. So now if I refresh again, there you go. You need to sort this out a little bit. But after you sort it out a little bit, you will see what's going to happen. So what Mininet did actually is to create a topology of a topology of 3 switches and 4 hosts. There are 2 hosts connected to this switch, is host 1 and host 2, and then host 3 and host 4 are connected to this switch here. When I do a ping, the RP handler application is going to deal with all the RP packets, so it's going to get all the way to all the ports. So it's a little bit like this host is going to be discovered in the network, and then after that, it's going to be pop up in the topology. And the same happened with the host number 4. So that's why you see this now in the topology. And then after you get your host in the topology, so the controller knows about this host, then the simple forwarding application is going to push the flows directly to the controller and to the switches. Now, if I go to flows, this is a very typical question. Why I don't see any flow here? I mean, I'm pushing flows for sure, because otherwise I cannot ping in an OpenFlow network. So some flow must be there for sure in order for the ping to work. So the reason is because this flow, as I said before, this flow tab is for your static, for your flow programmer. So whenever you want to set up your own flows, you need to use this one. But in this case, what happens is the simple forwarding application is just putting the flows automatically. And in that case, they will not show in the flow programmer, but they will show in the troubleshooting. Because this one is for a statistic, and the statistic will show that clearly that we have flows in the switches. So you can go here, and then if you select a switch on the left, and then you go down, you hopefully see your flows here. And the statistics for them, packets, bytes, and everything. Okay. Question? So this is for this lab. Okay. So something you should know as well is that this OpenDaylight architecture, basically you have a northbound, which is made of APIs. All these APIs are REST APIs. And of course, don't expect the graphical interface to cover all the possibilities and all the applications that we have in OpenDaylight. Actually, the existing graphical interface covers pretty much what is in what we call the controller network service functions, which are the basic functions that you have seen before, like topology, switch manager, or inventory, flow programming. But if you want to deal with some other application, let's say virtualization, service provider application, like Affinity, like OBSDB, all these applications, they have their own APIs, and you need, they'll say, the graphical interface is not enough to actually deal or control this application. So what you need actually is to target or kick your northbound REST API. And this is a very good link because, OK, what are these APIs? I mean, if I need to configure, I need to deal with this controller. Where can I find information about these APIs? So far, I found this link in the wiki that will give you actually a good view of all the APIs that we have in OpenDaylight. It's not here, but I can quickly copy-paste and show you. It's in the wiki, so it's not hidden somewhere. Actually, it's in the main page, so it's not like hidden or anything. It's in the main page. You will have something that calls directly to the APIs, and then you see all your northbound APIs. You see mostly all the applications in OpenDaylight that have their own API, and you have all the information here. So how do I deal with an application? Just from my end user point of view, you just have to go and read about the APIs for this particular application. OK. Now, given that we have this northbound REST API, what are the tools we're going to use to operate this controller? Basically, we're going to use REST clients, what is called REST clients. And what are the most popular, or the one that we use more in OpenDaylight? There is one called Postman that you have seen before in Madhu's presentation. You can install that in Google Chrome. There is another called REST client for Firefox. And you can always, of course, Linux gurus, you can use the Linux CURL commands. And that works very well as well. So any of these three options, maybe there are more for sure, you can use to actually control, configure, and deal with your controller. And now we're going to do a quick laugh. We're going to restart Mininet because we're going to clear all the flows that has been created automatically. We don't want to do that. We don't want to get that in place. And now we're going to use Postman, one of the REST clients, to actually do the same kind of action that you can see in the graphical interface, but this time we're going to do through REST. So actually, we're going to get the nodes. We're going to get the topology. We're going to add a flow. We're going to get the flow stats, and we're going to delete a flow. And all that we're going to do using a REST client instead of the graphical interface. So back to the terminal. Do exit. Of course, every time you exit, you clear your flows. Unless you do a save in the controller, every time, no, actually, these automatic flows, every time just get refreshed. It's only when you create the static flows that when you restart your switches, normally they try to get installed as well. But these automatic flows, they get refreshed or they get cleared every time you restart your switches. If you start your RP, you start to doing requests between the host, is when you kick in actually all these automatic flows. But as I say, depending on your environment, you want to have these automatic things or not. So let's start the controller again, the Mininet. Start clean. Yeah. And now, OK, I can verify now that I don't see any host or anything, so you can also refresh this graphical interface. See if I can get. No. To go up. Just went to. Yeah, sorry. There you go. It's so confusing. Okay, there you go. If I refresh now, it's just the switches without any host, everything clear out. Okay. So now instead of using the GUI to do things, we're gonna use the REST tool, and the REST tool hopefully is open somewhere. Otherwise, I have a link here. I'm lucky. So I have a link here, Postman. And this is actually the tool. This tool also allows you to save collections. So when you have you know how to do with the REST. I mean, you have a sequence of commands to program this or do that. You can save all that in collection. This is just the feature for this tool. So I just create this basic network service function samples. And here what you can do is actually what we said before. First, maybe we are interested to see which nodes are available in the controller. And then you can just do a send. And this tool automatically stores, this is what you have here, you have a URL. And this is the URL that you are using in your request for the REST interface. So just do a send. And here you can see clearly your switches. Hopefully. No, did I do the switches? No, I didn't push the right one. This looks like another thing. Node properties, supported flow action. I think I'm still table, timestamp.
Yes, there is a switch with the MAC address.
Yeah. Yeah, this is actually the inventory, because you can see the description for the suite, probably the name somewhere. Value, forwarding, This is actually the node. Yeah, this is the node ID for the switch. This is important also if you are dealing with the two OpenFlow plugins. As of today, actually, there is a main difference between the new OpenFlow plugin and the existing OpenFlow plugin. The existing OpenFlow plugin, the type is always OpenFlow, and the ID is just the MAC of the switch. For the new OpenFlow plugin, they changed that, and here instead of the OpenFlow is NDSAL, and instead of the ID being the MAC is just an OpenFlow and then an identity. You will see that there because I'm going to show also the OpenFlow 1.3 plugin. You can get your topology as well. Of course, it will not look nice, the topology, because it's not a picture or a graph. It's just a description of all your connections, all your X. Yeah, so when you see here, this is going from tail node connector to a head node connector, and that way I build my topology. And finally, just as an example, I'm going to try to add a flow, just to see that that works. So how I program a flow is much more straight using REST, because in REST, I just need to fill whatever is here with the things that I need, and then I just send the flow to be programmed. This is what I'm going to do now. And then SASX. Now, how I do verify that my flow is there? Again, I just need to get the statistics just to check that my flow has been pushed. And it's there. You can see already the 10001 is the flow that I was trying to push. So you can play with this a little bit. Let me see what is the next thing. Any questions so far? This is what we did. We can also delete the flow as well. Yeah, easy. And the next thing I'm going to show actually is the OpenFlow 1.3, because this is something that some people in the audience might be interested. How to deal with the OpenFlow 1.3. So we said already that the graphical interface doesn't support the flow programming or flow statistics for OpenFlow 1.3. So how can I do that actually? So the way to do is, again, using your REST interface. And in this case, it's a very particular interface called RESTconf. The RESTconf interface is coming from the new NDSAL architecture in the OpenDaylight. And these APIs are automatically generated from the YAML models. So it's something that you don't program directly. I'm not a developer much, but I can try to explain what I'm understanding. With the YAML models, you don't really need to program directly the REST interface. What is going to happen is directly from the YAML model, you're going to generate automatically in real time when you run your controller. You're going to generate automatically these REST interfaces. And this is happening now for the OpenFlow 1.3. So you can see an example there. Now, what do we need to start testing OpenFlow 1.3? We need two things, if you remember. One of the things is to Mininet, or actually controller first. We need to set up controller with the OpenFlow 1.3 option. I will start that now. And the second thing we need is the Mininet. We need actually to enable the OpenFlow 1.3 option as well through the patch that we are using in OpenDaylight. So the patch itself that we do in Mininet, it doesn't really enable by itself the OpenFlow 1.3, but it's enabled you or allow you to use this switch protocol option directly from the Mininet command. So because otherwise you need to go to the OBS and reprogram your OBS to talk the protocol OpenFlow 1.3. Instead of that, we just add this small thing at the end, -- switch OBSK protocols equal OpenFlow 1.3. And by doing that, with the patch in place, then we are forcing the OBS to start with the OpenFlow 1.3 simulation. And then after we start, we're going to open the Postman again, and then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to get the inventory. We're going to add a flow. We're going to see the flow configuration. We're going to feed the flow operational, which is the same as the statistics. And then we're going to delete the flow the same as before. So the same as we did before for the OpenFlow 1.0, we're going to do for the OpenFlow 1.3. And then, of course, there is an extra command you can always use when you are dealing with OBS, of course, to verify that your flows are really there. I mean, normally, I can tell you the flow operational, if you see your flow there, is because it's there. The only thing you sometimes want to verify here is because you see the statistic, but you don't see all the fields in the flow. So you really want to make sure that all the fields are really pushed into the flow. That's why I recommend to use this command in OBS as well, to make sure that you have your flows in the switch. Yes? Yes, and there in the VM, did you install your VM? They are in the VM. I mean, I can pass you later the VM so you can copy in your laptop and then start the VM. So these collections are normally available in the VM, but I think in the wikis there are some examples that you can find as well. So hands-on now. So basically, step by step, don't get lost here. So the first thing we're going to do is stop the controller and start with the new option. So exit. From the OCI console, I just do exit. Yes, I exit. So controller stop. And now what I'm going to do is to run the same thing, but then OpenFlow 1.3. And that will enable my new OpenFlow plugin. The new OpenFlow plugin, I get question as well. The new OpenFlow plugin 1.3 is backward compatible. So it's supporting 1.2, 1.1, 1.0, everything that is before, right? So just take a little bit. Sorry, I need to also stop this one. And I'm going to prepare actually. So for this, what I'm going to use is what I said before. I'm going to use the option in the end that is, I cannot see the entire thing because of the resolution, but you can see here I'm writing switch OBSK protocol, blah, blah, blah. You have a sample here. This is what I want to tell you. You don't want to type this long line. If you go to see the tutorial scripts, here you have some example how to start Mininet OF3. This example was made by Madhu, so they include normally some other line, like this line, for instance, to set the manager in the OBS. So this thing you don't need really if you are not dealing with OBS. But if you want to use the OBS plugin together with OpenFlow, then probably you would like to enable this option that are here as well. But this is more for the OBSDB manager or the OBSDB plugin to deal with the OBS switch. If we just are interested in OpenFlow testing, you just need the first line, and that's you can just copy from there. Okay, so first let's make sure that it's up and running. So OpenFlow 1.3 plugin takes a little more time and more processing than the normal OpenFlow. Just be aware of that. So what we can do is actually, try to refresh the OpenDaylight Yeah, I think it's already up because if I can log in here in the graphical interface, it's already up. So now what I'm going to do is going to start the same topology using OpenFlow 1.3 switches. And for that, I just need to go to my Mininet, and now I'm going to start with the OpenFlow 1.3 option. Same thing with this patch. You will see clearly here protocols OpenFlow 1.3 when you start your Mininet. So there is no doubt when you start Mininet that you are enabling the OpenFlow 1.3 in the switches. Then I go back to here, and then I do a refresh. And there you go. So as you can see your switches on the left, and you can see your topology on the right. So apparently nothing has changed from the previous OpenFlow. But if you try to program, the difference is you try to program a flow, it will still work. You can use your flow programmer to push a flow. But this flow is going to be only for it's going to be an OpenFlow 1.0 compatible flow, meaning that you can only use the table 0, and meaning that you can only do the matching and the outputs action that are compatible with 1.0. And most of the people, if they are dealing with 1.3, they're going to use 1.3 feature. That's why the GUI is not very interesting if you are dealing with the OpenFlow 1.3 plugin. The second difference you can see here clearly is that the name of the switch. Before it used to be OpenFlow and then the MAC address. Now it's NDSAL and then some name called OpenFlow, and then the identity of there is an ID for the switch. So this is just being added to the switch here. Okay. So the last thing we're going to do, as I said, we're going to go to Postman now, and now we're going to try to configure flows through the RESTconf. So you will know very clear we are dealing with RESTconf because of the URL. So the URL, if you can see here, it's a pity the resolution is a little bit bad, but if you can see here also in your setup in your VM, it's always a RESTconf here, and that means that this is an automatic API. For the other APIs that I tried before, there is a clear path, controller, northbound, blah, blah. Here is always a RESTconf. So you can see already the difference. Now, I press ascend. So this command is called get inventory, and this will give us a list of switches, the same as I did before in the switch manager. There you go. And there you can see the list of your switches. Yeah. Capabilities and that kind of thing. Client of software, some information about inventory about your switches. The next interesting thing is to actually push a flow. And this is, this is a very simple flow, but now in 1.3 you have very complex flows. You have MPLS, you have a lot of feature actually that you can use for OpenFlow 1.3. And those you can use actually in this body. So you just need to put in the body whatever you need for your flow. Now, question for everybody is, where do I get information on how I configure this? There are two things you can take a look. One is the API document that I showed you before. But there is another thing interesting I can tell you. You want to really play with OpenFlow 1.3. There is a wiki page where you see a sample of RESTconf. And then you can take from there if you want to do this or that action or this output or this other matching, and then you can, because this page is being fed by the OpenFlow plugin developers. Whenever they test a flow, they just put in that page, and that's very good. So I will show you the page after I push the flow. So let's push the flow. And it's OK, as you can see here. Now, there are two things you need to understand also in the new OpenFlow plugin. The new OpenFlow has a configuration area and an operational area. The configuration area is a little bit like the old flow programmer in the 1.0. So it's just a place where you're going to put your flow, and then it's going to be stored there just for configuration. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the flow is actually pushed down to the switch. So the operational area is the other area where you're going to see if the flow is there or not. And the operational area, I will show you also some statistics. So you will see actually that some packets are matching the flow or they are not matching the flow. So if I go just to get the flow config, this just give me the configuration of more or less the replica of whatever I have configured for this flow, so nothing special. And what I said, this doesn't mean that the flow is actually there. So to check that the option is there, then I just need to go to the operational area. And the difference between the config and operational, you can see better in your place here is actually here. When you are dealing with the URL, here it's set operational, and the other one is set configuration. Also, when I'm pushing this command, in the end, I have to specify the node, and I have to specify the table as well. So I'm going to read on this table, table 0, in the OpenFlow 1 switch. So if I do this now, by the time we're speaking, the flow should be there. So, and actually it is. And here you can see, you can always see some fields, not all of them, but some fields from the original flow, and also the statistics for the flow. Flow statistics, and some stuff here. Bytes count, etc. Any question? So this is pretty much all for OpenFlow that I want to show for OpenFlow 1.3. And it's only to point you out, if you want to play with that, there is this API thing here. But if you go actually to the main page and then you go directly to your the OpenFlow plugin project, I can show you here. Here, these people, they made user guides on how to see the inventory, how to push a flow, the same thing I have done here. Also with groups and meters, so more complex flows. And then finally here you have, no, actually it's in the flows. At the end of all, you have examples. And this is very useful information. This is really, really the information. If you're going to program flows using 1.3, you need to take a look at this example. This example, all of them has been verified, and all of them work by the developers. And you see how complicated you can do things here. Like I was just doing a simple example, but some of the flows can be different matching, different actions, and all kind of things here. But just curiosity, there is a good wiki here for OpenFlow 1.3. Yes?
Which command did you use to start up the OpenDaylight controller, the server, for the class demo?
Yes. Let's go back there, very easy. So here in this terminal, I have the Mininet running, right? And in this one, I have the controller. So I'm going to stop it a little bit to see what I have done. I can stop also here. That's it. Basically, what I did to enable the OpenFlow plugin is just to enable with the option OpenFlow 1.3. So this is basically you're going to do to enable the OpenFlow 1.3. And this option is available, as I said before, any edition. The problem is that some applications, they don't support this OpenFlow 1.3. So if you are dealing with VTM, you are dealing with Affinity, this application, they don't work well with OpenFlow 1.3. But they do with OpenFlow 1.0. You are just interested in program your flows with OpenFlow 1.3. You just need to use the base edition that I'm using here, and then you can go. I don't know if I don't know if it has been explained before. The difference between the three editions are the base edition has the basic component that you can have in OpenDaylight, and those are the OpenFlow, and the second is the OBSDB, or the OBS control. The virtualization edition has all the virtualization that we have for data centers and to be able to deal with OpenStack as well. And the service provider edition has all the plugins that you may need in a service provider, like if for BGP, SNMP, Lisp. I mean, there is a list of plugins that you can use to deal with the legacy network or that kind of things. So that is the main difference between the three editions. I think this is almost done. I think the only thing I need to just comment is how we troubleshoot the controller. Or should I wait? Is anybody still working on the flows, or it's already done? Oh, it's time over. So then it's just to comment that you have the OSGI console that you have seen before. There is a controller log file that you can check that everything that is happening in the console is being written in a file. And then you have the possibility to set up, as I said before, there is a lock configuration file where you can set up which bundle you're going to lock and which lock level you can do. And of course, you have Wireshark always available that will help you to deal with any kind of problem, especially with OpenFlow. So that's my last presentation slide. Thank you. Thank you very much. Don't hesitate to ask questions. With the integration team, we are actively testing the OpenDaylight. Especially the base edition is very much tested. And we start working on the virtualization, and then we're going to go to the service provider and be tested. So you have a question about how to verify that, how to test this or that, you can always send us a mail to the developer list or the IRC or any other channel in OpenDaylight. Thank you.